Knowles on the news. Susan Knowles.
And welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to start out by saying that our hearts and our prayers go out to those in Orlando who are left dealing with the loss of their relatives and loved ones, and also want to just say that it's an unspeakable, horrendous massacre that took place in Orlando, and we should never forget what happened. And also, I do want to have us remember that Christina Grimmie, who was the third runner-up in 2014 on The Voice, also was killed, I believe, like the day before in Orlando as well. And it's being overshadowed by the fact of what happened in Orlando, and that's understandable because there are 49 people who were massacred, as opposed to one person who was massacred. And she was, it looks like from some reports that I'm reading that she may have been pinpointed because she was a Christian. So I think in times like this, we have to remember that this isn't just about perhaps a particular group or a particular person. It is against all of us. You know, this person, I know how our president is trying to spin this. Oh, well, he was a homegrown extremist. And supposedly that's what the FBI has said to him. Well, the FBI takes their direction from the president, and they're going to want to say what they know that he wants the public to hear, is the way I look at it. While he may have been an extremist and he may have been here and home in the United States, there are a couple of things that make that particular phrase not complete. And by that I mean, we have seen videos of his father who came here from Afghanistan. I don't know if his father is now an American citizen or what the case may be, but his father has given support to the Taliban on different videos that I've seen. We're also being told that this man was saying that he wanted to kill people. He was talking about and his wife supposedly is coming out and saying that she knew what he was going to do, and she'd taken him allegedly by the Pulse nightclub so that he could scope it out. She had gone with him allegedly to buy the ammunition that he used. And now they're looking at whether or not, and they, by being the FBI, whether they or not they want to press charges against her. Now, anybody else, there wouldn't be any decision to make. They would press charges against them. It's called an accessory to the crime. Her being possibly a Muslim, her being unfamiliar perhaps with the laws of the United States, that will be the excuse anyway. I don't know whether or not, I'm very doubtful that she will have criminal charges pressed against her. And they're saying in the news, so we can set this up, she's being very cooperative with the FBI. Well, a lot of people have been very cooperative at times with the FBI, and they still had charges brought against them. And I think that in this case, if this all is true, there needs to be charges brought against her, because I think this will maybe, perhaps, in some small way, be a deterrent for those in the future who are wishing to do the same thing and who will feel that there's nothing going to happen because, well, I was unfamiliar with what was happening, or I was a wife that was under the thumb of her husband because of Sharia law, whatever the case may be. You are in the United States. I know we don't always do this, but there are laws in the United States that should be followed. And there shouldn't be an excuse for those who are unfamiliar with the laws. Basically, it is a should know, or you should know. The ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's what they tell everybody that's here who's an American citizen. And we always say, that our law should apply to everyone, all the time. We say that, except when cases like this come up, then we want to start kind of backtracking. So you can't have it both ways. It's either one way or the other. And I tell you, one thing that's kind of bothering me, we're always taught, and we have been this way for a long time in our PC world. We're taught that you need to always look at people and notice their differences. It used to be we're supposed to notice the similarities because honestly, that's how people get along. There's a connection made, right? So, but now we're taught, no, you're not supposed to do that. You are supposed to just see the similarities, notice them, accept them, tolerate them, praise them, whatever the words that you want to use. And by doing so, whether it's intentional or not, it continues to divide and separate us. You know, one perfect example, George Takei came out and talked today. I don't know if you remember him. He was Sulu on Star Trek. He's gay, and he's a gay activist. So following what happened in Orlando at a nightclub frequented by gays, and I guess it was a gay nightclub, all intents and purposes, that's what it was. According to him now, he's come out with an article in the Washington Times basically saying, oh, NRA, don't you mess with the LGBT community. What did the NRA have to do with this, George? You know, I think that George is really misled here because you're going after the wrong people. The NRA didn't come in and open up and kill the people in that nightclub. Now, I think, George, if you look, it was Omar Mateen who did that. And you may say, well, you know, he's able to get those weapons because of the NRA. Let me tell you something, and everybody with any common sense knows this. You cannot prevent a criminal from breaking the law. That's why they're called criminals, okay? They break the law. They do unlawful things. If it wasn't an assault rifle, which this was a particular type of rifle, and it wasn't an AR-15 like everybody thought, or an AR-14 like Tom Brokaw thought. But if it's not that, they will do whatever. Explosives, knives, bats, create something. It's foolish for people to sit here and make this out to be a Second Amendment case. And even George Takei goes farther and says, you know, in order to have our First Amendment rights, with an association of what he's talking about is being able to freely associate with whomever he wants, which is, in this particular case in Orlando, being able to be in a nightclub frequented by gay people, and you can freely associate with gay people, and this guy interfered with that, and other people want to interfere with that because of their hate. And so he's saying, in order to have our First Amendment rights upheld, we have to limit the Second Amendment. Now, that in and of itself is the most ridiculous, stupid statement I have ever heard. It's the Second Amendment, George, that allows you to have any of your other rights. You get rid of the Second Amendment, and you have basically signed away all of the rest of the constitutional rights. And I want to say one thing, George. I don't know if you looked at the names of the people who were in that nightclub. If you look at them, they're either Cuban or Hispanic. And I haven't heard one word that you said about protecting the Hispanic community or the Cuban community. It's only about the LGBT community. What about that? Was he targeting then that particular nightclub? Was it because they were gay? Was it because they were Hispanic or Cuban? Or was it just because he believed in the Quran, which basically talks about being gay is wrong, and the cleric that came to Central Florida, not like what, in March of this year, who basically said you need, again, he was a cleric from Iran. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. That basically said, you know, we need to kill gays because we're doing them a favor, or that's what Allah wants. You know, for you to sit there and come after the same people, George, that would be there at your defense and be there to protect you is just asinine. Do you have a bodyguard, George? Do you have somebody protecting you? And if you do, you're a hypocrite, just like all the other people in Hollywood who say, oh, well, we should ban guns, while they sit there with all of their protection, including Hillary Clinton, Obama. I know they're not Hollywood per se, but they get the Hollywood crowd going. All of those people, Hollywood, the president, the presidential candidates, they all have bodyguards. They are armed, and they're not armed with rubber bands. They're armed with guns. And so for anybody to come out and say all of a sudden, oh, we want to ban the Second Amendment rights and we want to we want to do away with the guns that cause mass murder. Let me just tell you something. You may not know this, but a lot of guns do a lot of damage, George, and they can be fired off very quickly. The gun that was used, to my understanding, you had to pull the trigger each and every time, just like you would with any other weapon other than an automatic. And automatic rifles have been banned for a long time. You can't own one, but I'm sure there are criminals who have one. That's why they call them criminals. I think we need to get real here, and we need to start getting our heads out of our PC sand. And we need to get back to reality. You know, it's kind of like right after this Orlando shooting, this massacre, this horrible, horrendous massacre was perpetrated upon these people by a man who declared his loyalty to the Islamic State, and the Islamic State came out and said, yeah, we're responsible for it. Okay, all of that should be enough. But no, the PC crowd wants to immediately turn and make it about gun control. Let me just tell you something, George, and all of those people like Perez Hilton, who came out right away against the Second Amendment and the NRA and conservatives and Christians, for the most part. Those people are still out there. Those people still hate you because you are gay. And not only do they hate you because you are gay, but they hate you, me, and everyone else who isn't following the Quran and believes in Islam, because they consider us infidels. So that means all of us are targets. It just so happened that nightclub got targeted for whatever reason. Whether it was they were gay, Hispanic, infidels, it was convenient, I don't know. Convenient for the shooter to go there. I don't know what the case may be. But you can't, the woman in Oklahoma who was beheaded, remember her, what was it, last year, year before, at workplace by a man who was, obviously is belief in Islam, but we didn't want to say that because, oh, no, that was workplace violence. I don't know that she was gay. I really don't. But she was killed because, you know why? She was an infidel. So let's get off our high horses of thinking, well, you're the only people that anybody is coming after. This is an American issue. All Americans who don't believe in Islam and follow it are subject to being considered infidels and being killed by those who follow the Quran to the letter of the law, which says, kill all infidels. So let's stop making this about you and me and we're separate. We need to come together. We need to find our similarities, not our differences. We can't keep tearing each other apart by the hatred that we have back and forth, by the vitriol back and forth. I believe in your First Amendment rights, George, to say whatever you want to say. And I would defend your right to say it. I may never agree with one word that you say, but you have the right to say it. And it's not because you're gay, George. It's because you're here in the United States of America, and we have a Constitution that protects people's right to say what they want to say. Now, I can speak out about it like I'm doing. You can speak out about the NRA like you're doing. Anything that you want to do. There are a few exceptions, of course. You can't incite violence and on and on and on, whatever the exceptions are in the Constitution, and everybody pretty much knows what that is. But it's ridiculous to sit here and keep tearing us apart and taking every opportunity that you can to want to disavow everything in the Constitution and get rid of the Second Amendment. And that's what you're doing. You may say, oh, no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get rid of that one gun, that rifle that kills a lot of people. Right. It starts there, and then it's a slippery slope, just like everything else is. You need to look around, George, and find out that how many times in the United States has somebody threatened your life like this man did into those poor people that were sitting there in the nightclub minding their own business. And I dare say, I'm sure you've had your ups and downs and your struggles. Who hasn't? We all have. But for you to sit there and make this about the NRA or the Second Amendment is absolutely over the top ridiculous. And you know it, and I know it, and everybody should know that. Instead of trying to divide people, George, why don't you bring them together? We have enough issues going on. We need to stop looking at our division and start bringing ourselves together in unity. There are people all over this nation and all over the world who feel that what happened in Orlando was absolutely insane and should never have happened. And they are there to stand with you as a gay person. Because why? Because you are a human being just like the rest of us. So why divide yourself from the rest of us? We really have got to change the way that we look at things. I mean, we have people who are calling themselves pastors, who are coming out and talking about, wow, I'm so glad that 49 pedophiles died in Orlando. Sick people. I tell you what, in the times that we are in right now, you can tell, just listen, you can tell who has been claiming that they are pastors, claiming that they are people of God, and it's coming out now, and you absolutely know, you can see who the lies came from and who they're coming from. You can see that these people were hiding behind this veil of, oh, I'm a pastor. No, I'm sorry, you're not. If you're a pastor in your own mind, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing biblical about what you have said. And you need to remember that in the Bible it says you are held to a higher standard. And when you take and lead your people astray, God will bring his judgment on that. That's biblical. And maybe you should spend a little time reading it so you know that you have gone astray yourself and you're leading others astray as well. And that was a pastor in a church in Sacramento, California. And I tell you, I don't know. I don't know what's happened to people. I'm seeing so many pastors and others falling away from the Bible, falling away from right and wrong, from what people know is right and wrong. I'm not talking about legal or illegal. I'm talking about morally correct and not PC correct. And this isn't the majority of Americans. But I know that you have seen the same thing. Social media is getting to the point where I have friends who say, I'm leaving social media for a while. I just can't take it anymore. I can't take what people are saying, how cruel people have become, how they're attacking everyone for anything and everything. And it's not about the political campaign anymore. It's about everything. And it is getting to be ridiculous. I mean, as a nation, I'm watching us absolutely crumble and fall apart. We haven't been together on a number of things for a very long time, and seemingly we just keep going farther and farther apart. And then we have a president who comes out and does nothing to unite the country. We can't even, I mean, he still thinks it's all political to say Islamic terrorism. He thinks it's a political move. Oh, we can't say that. Well, why am I saying that? It's just political. He was so angry in his talk this week. But he wasn't angry so much. I'm sure he cares about what happened in Orlando and what's happening around the world. But his anger and his emotion started to show only when he was talking about, somebody speaking against the king. And then he was angry. Oh, you're questioning my motives and what I say and how I say it. Yeah, we are. Because you don't get it. You don't get that we have an enemy out there who is sworn to wipe us out. And it's happening more and more here in the United States. And it's not about somebody buying an assault rifle or whatever and going in and massacring people. It's about what we're allowing to happen by not doing what we should do. Meaning, the FBI talked to this guy 2 or 3 times, this Omar Mateen, and let him go. Most likely because, oh, he's Muslim. We can't do anything. We got to be PC, so we can't do what we would normally do. When you had everybody at his work, a number of people supposedly who were telling the FBI, this is what this guy's saying. He's talking about killing people. See something, say something. Does anybody care if you do? Apparently not. And I tell you, if you haven't seen the show that I did on Philip Haney with the DHS, you need to go and look at that now. Because now it's more important than ever to see that show. Just go to Spreaker.com, type in Susan Knowles, and find that show. Philip Haney, Haney, was a couple of weeks ago. He's a former DHS agent. Listen to that show and try to keep your head from exploding while you're doing it. The things that they told him to do will just blow your mind. And if you want to know more about what's going on that you're not being told, and you'll never be told in the mainstream media, I just did a show the other day with Patrick Wood. Go find that one. That will just, once again, you'll need tape around your head to keep it from exploding. Because the amount of things that are coming out each and every day, we are not being told, and they are getting worse and worse and worse. Our freedoms are going away right underneath our noses, and we're not doing anything about it. We are at a very, very dangerous time. You've got people now coming out and the guy on Fox, Bill O'Reilly, coming out and saying, I want the United States or Congress. I want Congress to declare war against our enemy. It is the Islamic radicals. I get all of that, but the implications, I don't know that Bill understands what all that could mean to the United States. You would have military basically taking over in certain ways. Rules would be changed. The Constitution could be suspended. I mean, come on, think about it. And he's not the only one. There are other people talking like that. If we had a president who would just do what he should have done so many years ago and gone over and wiped those people off the planet. And I know people are going, oh, you want to kill innocent people. No, don't want to kill innocent people. They know exactly where those ISIS operatives are. They have known. They will always know where they are. And they could go over there and bombard them and take them out in a few days. But we don't want to do that. It serves a purpose to have ISIS around. I don't know all the ins and outs of the purpose. I have my thoughts. I'll keep to myself. But we could get rid of those people, and we don't do it. And so because we have emboldened the enemy by not wiping them off the planet, by not calling them who they are, these things are going to continue to happen. And here it is, June 15th. Ramadan lasts at least to the end of June that I know. Where Ramadan is where they told all the people who are supporters of ISIS, go out and kill the infidels. And we're starting to see that's what they're doing. People now are also trying to make it out, these guys are just deranged. I read something saying, the father of Omar Mateen, he has delusions of grandeur. No. We can't make these people mentally ill. That gives them a pass. It excuses what they're doing. You're not mentally ill when you go out and plan long-term something like what supposedly happened, where you're going out and you're scoping out a nightclub and you're buying weapons and you're getting prepared. You have to look at that and say, is that really a mental illness in there when you're mentally able to do all of that? And it's questionable, very questionable. And, claiming your support with ISIS, making sure that people knew that. We have to start taking people seriously, and we have to listen to what they're telling us. And for some reason, this administration doesn't want to. And we all have our theories on why he doesn't. I know the Muslim Brotherhood is throughout the entire administration now, and perhaps that's a big reason. But we have to look at that, and we have to know, and we have to stop, shrinking away from our responsibilities, turning our heads to the truth, pretending it's not there, pretending it'll all go away. It's not going away. You need to look at this and know this is not going away. We are in deep trouble at this point in the United States, and no one is willing to really step up and do anything about it. I don't know that anybody can at this point. We are so far lost because we've been asleep. All of us, we've been asleep, and we've allowed all of this to occur. And it's kind of like there's no Congress to reach out to. I mean, they've been bought and sold by this administration for how long now? And the Democrats, they're going to go ahead and do exactly what they're told to do by this administration. And God forbid Hillary get in. It's going to be as bad, if not worse, than what we have now. And you can wrap it up if she gets in. Because this country, you think it's bad now? Oh my gosh. And as I've said before, there isn't any one person who is going to save this country. We all have to act and do our part, whether that's going to local, school board meetings, city council meetings, whatever the case may be. We have to do everything legally that we can do to prevent things like this from continuing to occur. And I know that it can be very disheartening at times. People are saying, I don't know what to do. I feel like giving up. We can't give up. That's what people want us to do. We have to continue the fight for as long as we are able to continue the fight. And by fight, I mean expressing your opinions, having your voices heard, writing about what your feelings are in regards to where this country is going and what you think needs to be done, attending meetings that come up, supporting your country in every way that you can, and trying to get your country back. I don't know if we can get our country back at this point. I really don't know. We are so far down that slippery slope that I don't know what's coming or how we get out of this. And I know everybody that is on, for Donald Trump, everybody's putting your support, I know, in Donald Trump. He is one person. He is one person. And we're in a position now where we've allowed one person to make all the decisions. And look where we are now. We don't need to cry out for a king. And people, I tell you, if you're Christian and you have been away from your faith, go back to your faith, go back to God. Because you're going to need God and your focus in what you're being called to do and where we are going in this country. Because, Obama may want to believe that this was just a homegrown extremist and one person out of, 3 million people or whatever thing he has in his head. I don't know. This is going to continue, and it's going to get worse, in my opinion. Again, when you don't do anything and you embolden the enemy, this is what happens. And by enemy, I mean that anybody who believes that the infidels in America, which is all of us, not any particular group, but all of us who are not following Islam, when those people believe that all infidels should be killed and nobody does anything about it, and everybody just likes to say, oh, domestic violence, workplace violence, it's just an extremist. What that does is give a green light to somebody who says, okay, they're not looking, it's go time. You need to stay vigilant. You need to stay involved or get involved if you're not already involved. You need to spread the word. You need to spread the word like broadcast like I'm doing right now to get the word out so that people who are listening to the mainstream media and are being told nothing can hear what the truth really is. But this is not a time to bury your head in the sand. The republic and the survival of the republic depends upon you doing everything legally possible that you can do to turn things around and to stop the corruption, to stop the lies. We have to do it. We are in this together. George, Takei, we are in this together. This isn't about you or one particular group. It's about all of us. We're all Americans. And it's not just Americans who are being killed. You know that as well as I do. I don't hear you speaking out about what's happening in the Middle East, about women being burned alive because they don't want to be sex slaves of the Islamic State terrorists. I don't hear anybody complaining about the NRA. I'm sure they would be happy if the NRA went over there and saved those people. And here's something that I know comes as no surprise to you. Anytime there is a tragedy, a crisis, or anything else, those on the progressive left always use that crisis in order to further their agenda. No matter what it is, no matter how horrible the massacre is, these people have nothing stops them. We've heard Obama come out that, just politicize a shooting, and people in Congress on the progressive Democrat side, they have no qualms about coming out and doing exactly the same thing. It's just absolutely amazing. And the latest is, it's an article in Vanity Fair, and it's called "Days After Orlando Attack, House GOP Blocks Vote on Gay Rights Amendment." So if you just look at that title, you're going to sit there and think, oh my gosh, how horrible are these people, these conservatives, that they would do something like this. How can this be? And if you read a little further, basically what it is, this is Democrat Sean Patrick Mahoney of New York, who is an openly gay congressman. He proposed an amendment which is currently attached to a Defense Department spending bill that was slated for a vote later this week. And basically, let me just see if I can tell you what the bill was about. It says Republican leaders in the House of Representatives blocked a vote on a proposal that would ensure federal contractors can't discriminate against employees on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identification. I hate to tell people this, but, this is already a part of the law. You don't need a new law in order to say you can't discriminate against somebody when you're hiring them. We already have that. Federal contractors, it doesn't matter who it is. But what this Sean Patrick Mahoney tried to do was, seriously, right after this massacre in Orlando, he comes out and proposes this amendment. And then, of course, the GOP is looking at it as probably we don't need this law, or it's somehow connected to something that, isn't good for us, that has absolutely nothing to do with, employment discrimination or gays or anything else. But they spin it as though this is what it is. This is exactly what it is. You hate gays. This is obvious. This is coming out now. You won't vote for our amendment. How despicable is it that you would take a tragedy and say to yourself, like obviously Mahoney did, oh, hey, you know what? There's a vote coming up. I'll just wrap this in here with it, and then anybody against it is going to look like they hate gay people, so obviously it's going to pass. This administration and people on the Democratic progressive side, they do this time and time again. And again, they have it's the audacity to do something like that, and then to try to make the GOP look bad because not that they're voting against this amendment, but what it'll be is, oh, well, no, they're voting against gay people, when everybody knows darn good and well that's not what the vote was for. That's not what it was about. Again, I'm sure this amendment isn't even needed. It's just one more way to get what you want. And I'm sure, as a gay congressman, he wants to look as though, oh, look, I'm doing this just for you, and we're fighting ahead and forging ahead. Again, we're just separating people. This is all we're doing. We're saying if you're not for us, then you're against us. And it's not even about Orlando anymore. This bill has nothing to do whatsoever with Orlando, but it will be spun and used. Oh, you don't care about the gay people that died in Orlando, or you're against gay people in general. This is absolutely absurd, and it's what the left does all the time, and people typically fall for it because, it's what's spun. It's out there in the mainstream media. It's where most people get their news. And it's horrific that people actually sit and listen to the media that does not have their best interest in mind or in heart at all. They have their own agenda that they're trying to pass, and this Mahoney has, again, the nerve to come out, use a tragedy, and make it about an amendment for employment that is not connected in any way to this shooting, this massacre in Orlando. You should be ashamed of yourself for doing something like that. It's one thing if you bring a bill when it's just because you think it's something that it's needed. But don't push something because you have an agenda and you use a tragedy to get what you want, to benefit yourself. And it will benefit you somehow. There's money in here somewhere. It's somehow you're getting the benefit because it's the laws are already there. You can't discriminate against anyone in hiring for any reason. Come on. You know that. You don't need to keep adding law after law after law to push your agenda, to make us, once again, feel divided. Like, oh, people are going after gay people? Well, then we must stand up. Nobody's going after gay people. Nobody is looking at them in hiring practices and saying, oh, well, they're gay. I'm not going to, as a federal contractor, I'm not going to utilize their skills. Give me cases. Tell me when that's been done. You know that hasn't been done. It's just a way to use a tragedy to get what you want, and it's obscene. And again, you should be ashamed of yourself for doing something like that. We've got to wake up, and I know people who are listening to the show and are watching this, they're already awake. But there are people who are still asleep, who want to believe every hype and everything that's put out there and believe it to be true without researching and finding out it has no truth or validity whatsoever. It's just a political way to benefit, to get paid by lobbyists to do what you're doing. These people they don't give up. I mean, seriously, I don't know how they sleep at night. I really don't. To do something like this, and again, if I were in the gay community, I would be outraged that people were using this tragedy to get what they wanted. But I guess if you're in the gay community and you feel that you're believing the hype and you believe that this amendment is needed, then you're going to go along with it, and you're not going to realize that you're being used by the very people who claim to be representing your rights and are there for you. I don't know how we got so far astray in what we should do and how we should do things, but obviously we have, and there's no turning back right now. But we're going to have to come back around somehow. I mean, we really are. And I know I keep pounding this, but we are going to have to get away from the computers, get away from the TV, go out, find out what's really going on in politics, in our city council, in our schools, in anywhere and everywhere. We're going to have to listen to what's going on. We're going to have to talk about what's really happening. We're going to have to, call people out when they're not being truthful. It's just so ridiculous that we're in the position that we're in, and that we see no way out right now because this continues to go on. And obviously, this is brought at a time in a political campaign where a Democrat who's openly gay comes out and says, oh, we need this amendment. And the GOP, he knows the GOP is going to go against it because it's one of those things, again, that's not needed. It'll never be told. And then what's it supposed to do? Well, that's supposed to make Hillary look good because, she's for the people. And it's supposed to make Donald Trump look bad because, he hates all Muslims, right? I mean, it's so sickening. I mean, no wonder, again, no wonder people are so sick and tired of politics as usual, because it's all a lie. It really is. For the most part, when these people talk, when these Congress people talk, when any of these politicians talk, you better go out, you better see what they're really talking about and see where the truth lies, because most of the time, you're not going to hear the truth. It's just going to be one lie after another, because that person is looking out for their own best interest and how they can line their own pockets and their own causes with money from lobbyists and whoever else, so that they can just, advance their agenda. It's really something that we are going to have to become more vigilant on, and we're going to have to call people out on it. And I want to ask you, how many people turned on their TV after the massacre and heard anything positive about what was happening in the community? And I guess specifically, I want to ask you, how many people turned on the TV, saw the really long lines where people were standing in line to give blood for those people who were the victims, the 53 that were still in the hospital, that were having to have multiple surgeries and trying to just survive? How many people saw those people standing in line and then heard about what Chick-fil-A did? I mean, it was absolutely amazing that all of those people came together to give blood and to donate blood. I mean, that's what communities do. But to have Chick-fil-A, now this is the part we weren't told, really. I mean, I saw it one or two websites, and that's about it. Chick-fil-A opened their store in Orlando on Sunday, which everybody knows Chick-fil-A does not work on Sunday. They celebrate the Sabbath, and their stores are closed. Their restaurants are closed. But they opened up the restaurant, and they fed those in line. They gave them free food, sandwiches, tea, and they also gave the police officers who had helped and come, rushing in there at the massacre and been working for hours on end, they gave them free food as well. And, you would expect something like that to just be all over the news. I mean, if that were Starbucks, for example, the more progressive left Starbucks, people would have been all over themselves. The media would have fallen all over themselves to get that news out there. And by the way, where was Starbucks? Where was anybody else? But no, Chick-fil-A goes out there. They give people free food. They open up their restaurant, do something totally out of the ordinary, and one or two websites carry it. I'm not even sure it was like a website that anybody would really recognize. And, Chick-fil-A didn't ask for anything. They didn't ask for publicity. They didn't ask to be, oh, look at Chick-fil-A, look at what they're doing. They didn't do that. But it would have been nice. And why didn't we hear anything across mainstream media? You know why? Because Chick-fil-A, the whole image is Chick-fil-A hates gay people. They're Christians. They're horrible Christians that hate gay people. And that's kind of what the image is. That's what the progressive left wants you to believe about Chick-fil-A. Mayor de Blasio hates Chick-fil-A. He doesn't want Chick-fil-A in his town, right? So he certainly wouldn't want this to be broadcasted. But where's Mayor de Blasio now? Where are you, Mayor de Blasio? How come you haven't come out and said what a great thing it was that Chick-fil-A did? I guess you don't speak for the truth. And I was hoping that more people would pick up the story. And, I was waiting to see. And then all of a sudden I see CNBC. They have this headline about Chick-fil-A. I'm thinking, wow, this is great. Finally, somebody's picking it up and they're talking about it. We're gonna know about what Chick-fil-A did. How great is this? No, wrong. The whole article was on something on the order of, oh, well, how have you done so well when you're selling chicken and you're competing against the big hamburger restaurants? Really. So this is your way of saying thank you, Chick-fil-A, for supporting the Orlando community by coming out and doing a selfless, Christian-like thing. But no, we can't do that because, again, that's going to hurt the image that we're trying to advance. That these are horrible, horrible people that only care about themselves, that just absolutely hate the gay community. You know, when are we going to stop this, mainstream media? When are you going to tell the truth? When are you going to show the American people that you can be journalists again, that you can report the facts, that you don't hide the truth? I'm waiting, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that because from what I've seen, you are so far away from giving us the truth. And this is just one example where you won't report anything good, something noble, something that somebody has done above and beyond, something that is very Christian-like. You're not going to report because you have an agenda, and that agenda is supporting those others that have an agenda. It's shameful behavior. It really is. But you know what? Chick-fil-A doesn't need your promotion, your advertisement, your support. Chick-fil-A has the support of gay, straight, and everybody else. Because those people that do support Chick-fil-A know that they don't have anything against gay people. They have nothing against white people, black people, Asian people, or anybody else. They're there to serve the community. They do have Christian beliefs, and as far as I know in this country, that's still okay. And they would have done that for anybody and everybody because that's who they are. So we who know about Chick-fil-A and know the truth, and will keep telling the truth about them, will support them. They have our support, and they know that they do. And they know when we came out and supported them, what an overwhelming support. And you're going to tell me there were no gay people standing there in the line supporting Chick-fil-A at the time? I don't think so. I know there were. There were people from all walks of life. And again, we have to start standing together as people from all walks of life and quit separating ourselves into various groups. We're one human race, and we need to keep remembering that and not allowing people to take us off our focus. And so you may have heard that the Democrats are at it again, and this has again to do with Second Amendment rights. This is something that's just kind of coming out right now. Democrats mount gun control filibuster. You know how much they hate filibusters, right? When Senator Cruz came on and he was filibustering, that wasn't, that's horrible. Why would you do something like that? But when the Democrats do it, of course, they have the better ideas, right? They have reason to filibuster. We don't ever as a GOP because all of our ideas are stupid, they're racist, they're bigoted, they're whatever the agenda is for the progressives. That's what the Republicans are doing, right? But this time, oh no, because again, this is we've had another opportunity that we can come out and try to get what we want. We can politicize again another shooting that has nothing to do with the gun as it does to do with the human behavior of the person who owns the gun or their affiliation with whatever radical group you want to put forth. No. This is all about the gun. Okay, so now this is like the piranha or whatever in a feeding frenzy in a tank. This is what the Democrats are looking like now as they go for their to get what they want, to further their agenda. It says, I'm going to remain on this floor until we get some signal, some sign that we can come together. Senator Chris Murphy says. No, Senator Chris Murphy, the Democrat from Connecticut, you don't want some sign that we can come together. You want some sign that we are going to just give you what you want, that we are going to buckle like we have every time, and that you're going to get exactly what you want. And what does he want? Well, Let me just say, he launched, it says here, a talking filibuster on the Senate floor, which was quickly joined by fellow Democrats. Oh, now there's a shock. In an effort to pressure Republicans to accept legislation that would deny suspected terrorists from purchasing firearms and require universal background checks. It says the Senate is debating a spending bill. See, there's always money involved. There's always some way to get what you want. I'll hold out here so I can get what I want, back and forth. It's nothing new. The Senate is debating a spending bill that Democrats hope to offer gun amendments to, but Murphy said that the Senate should not proceed with debate on amendments to this bill until we have figured out a way to come together on, at the very least, two simple ideas. He says, I'm going to remain on this floor until we get some signal, some sign that we can come together on these two measures, that we can get a path forward on addressing this epidemic in a meaningful bipartisan way. See, the epidemic is the fact that you won't call it what it is, that you won't look at the root cause of an issue. You want to take away particular guns, particular rifles, particular whatever, but what are you going to do when something else replaces it? When criminals, as I've said, go out and do whatever they want to because they don't follow the law, then what are you going to do? What's going to be the next thing you do? When you keep putting Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid over the real issue, when the president won't even call it what it is, how does this prevent anything in the future from happening? You get rid of one gun, you get rid of another gun and another gun and another gun until you get exactly what you want, which is everybody unarmed in the entire United States. That's what you want. Why don't you filibuster until you get that? Because that's really what you want. And you want to take this political cycle when a president is going to be elected, a new president, and you want to make it a fight now between the Democrats and the Republicans. It's exactly what you're trying to do. Once again, you take a tragedy and you spin it so it makes the GOP look bad so that you get what you want. And here we go. Here we have, right now, we have House and Senate, majority Republicans, and here's what the Democrats are doing. The Democrats are getting, again, more publicity about it in the mainstream media, and the Republicans, once again, are being the ones that look like the haters, the stupid people, we just can't get along with, we can't do bipartisan to save our lives. I mean, seriously, haven't we seen this for the past 8 years? I mean, do we not know the signs? Do we not see this coming? What do you think is going to happen? I don't know. I really, with this GOP, typically what they do is buckle. Will they do it this time? Probably. I don't know if they'll get exactly what they want with the Democrats, but I can see them just saying, okay, well, we got to give them something because, we want our guy elected this year, so, we don't want to look bad. I mean, this maybe will help discount everything in the past they've said about us, and all of a sudden they'll really open their arms to the GOP. Oh, gosh. And at the same time, okay, here we go. Senators John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, and Dianne Feinstein are exploring whether there is common ground on a deal to prevent suspected terrorists from buying firearms. Currently, the two parties are backing very different approaches to resolving instances where someone feels they've been wrongly put on a watch list and therefore cannot purchase a gun. You see, because again, as we have this in California, as I've said over and over, California now has it where relatives can say that, I don't think that you should have a gun and I'm going to get an order to have that gun taken away. And then you're the one that has to prove that you should be allowed to have your gun back. We've talked about this over and over and over. So if that's that simple to happen, anybody can be put on a terrorist watch list. I mean, look at what the IRS did to the GOP conservatives that they didn't like. And how long it's taken to prove that they did that. And so what? What's happened because of it? Nothing. And so if somebody doesn't like you, they can say, you know what? I think they're terrorists because I've heard them talking about X, Y, and Z, and so I don't think they should have a gun either. So I think they should be on a terrorist watch list. And that means there go your guns. And they're not going to spin it this way. The Democrats, again, it's going to be, the GOP, those NRA gun grubbing SOBs. They're the ones that they don't care that children are being killed, that homosexuals in Orlando are being killed. They don't really care about that. When they're saying it, it's absolutely false, but the mainstream media will pick it up and it'll be, those GOP, they hate people and therefore they don't want, they want terrorists to have guns. They want everybody to have a gun so they can kill everybody in mass numbers. And it's absolutely ridiculous. The GOP somehow needs to stand up and not buckle and not fall into this same old trap that they fall into every single time. Now, the NRA formally backed an approach favored by Senate Republicans that would allow a judge to arbitrate people who mistakenly end up on the terrorism watch list and want to buy guns, while Democrats prefer giving the Justice Department such authority. Yeah, let's give the DOJ more authority. That's all we need. I mean, right now we have a DOJ who really... What's the investigation with Hillary Clinton? What's happening with that, DOJ? Why aren't charges, anything being brought? What's happening with that? But yet you want to give the DOJ more power to go out and take guns away from people and then arbitrate that. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Cornyn has a good approach or not. He's from Texas. I don't know if that means anything anymore. I think that we're mincing words here because, again, the goal is let's just get the guns. That's all the Democrats, all the progressives, all they want. And I'm sure there's probably since the king got upset yesterday about not saying radical Muslims or radical terrorists, whatever the case may be, that he was upset because he felt like Donald Trump was calling him out on it. That I'm sure he went back to all the Democrats and said, hey, let's just give it to them. Let's come up with a way of getting what we want, because I'm mad now because my feelings have been hurt. So here we go. We have a full day of filibustering, and who knows what they're going to do, and who knows how many GOP are going to just buckle and say, okay, yeah, we can't look bad. We've got to end this. We've got to do something. What we need to do is enforce the laws that we have on the books, and we need to put criminals away. We need to have the FBI step up and do their job, not go and talk to somebody 3 times and then go, oh, well, I better not do anything about this because he is Muslim, after they were told by his employees that worked with him, the things that he said. You want to go ahead and ignore that. I'm telling you, we've passed the point of ridiculousness. We really have. It's just going to get worse. We have lost all common sense and reason in some regards, especially when it comes to issues like gun control and political issues in this political election year. This has been the craziest election. It's about to get crazier, because we are just hell-bent on taking the guns away. And you can sit there and say, no, this isn't taking the guns away from everybody. This is one particular type of weapon. This is, one particular thing we're talking about. Why should people on terrorist watch lists get guns anyway? And again, you have to look and see how those people in power will use that to their benefit, to their favor, to get what they want. You've seen it. You can't look at something that's obvious and deny the truth. you can. I hope you don't. And I know that most people listening to this show aren't in that category. They understand what is happening. They understand what needs to be done. We really need to pull together, to come together as a nation, to stand up for the truth, to say no, to call your congresspeople if it does any good anymore, and tell them they'd better not buckle this time. This is not what we want. We've got to keep it together. We really do. We can't let these people break us apart. Until next time, this is Susan Knowles with Knowles on the News. God bless you. Take care of yourself.